In the final stretch of the NBA season is when I really feel like we start ramping up because NBA playoffs are almost here. I believe it's 10 days out as of recording this podcast. And really, the question everybody wants to know, can the Raptors get a win before the end of the season? Because really, they've got one shot.
I was gonna say I don't know.
So they are on a 15-game losing streak. And for clarity, they play tomorrow, the Bucks. Probably not going to win that, I don't think. They might. Bucks, we'll see.
No, I mean, I think Milwaukee's going to win that game, but okay.
But you also start to wonder, because in the standings, ways of things, like the Bucks can't give up a game, really. The Cavs are right there, so you kind of need to win that. Then they play the Wizards. Best chance at potentially breaking that
Wizards
would be that game, April 7th. If they don't win there, they play the Pacers 2 days later. Again, Pacers are in that race. I think they're going to want to win. Then you got the Nets, maybe. And then the last 2 games is Heat back-to-back. They really, in my mind, have 2 games that they could potentially win, and I'm not the most confident about it. They could go out of the season, at, 21 losses in a row?
Yeah, amazingly. I mean, we briefly talked about it too last week, but amazingly, they're going to completely duck who's balling, who's falling this week.
Yeah.
Somehow
and that's why I was like, I got to at least mention them here because, that's insane. And it does feel like not many people are talking about it right now, but that might be because we're looking at the winning teams. There's a lot of playoff stuff going on right now.
Right. They are just riddled with injuries too, which I think hasn't helped. RJ Barrett's been out. Bruce Brown's been out. Gary Trent's been out. Kelly Olynyk's been out. So it's made things a little tough. Pirtle's been dealing with some injuries over this time. They're just not. I mean, this has been a pretty miserable Raptors season, and I think it's you're kind of a saint if you're watching Raptors basketball at this point. Still, they're fully moving on to next year. I think this is a season to forget.
To put my sports fandom in perspective, this is a different sport. I watched the first 3 innings of Phillies baseball and went, damn, the season's over already, and left. The very first game, I was like, oh, man, wow, same problems, new year, I'm out. But either way.
Early returns on that are kind of similar, but we don't need to go down that route. It's going to be, I mean, I hadn't looked at the schedule like that. They do have a few favorable ones. Miami, both to end are tough because Miami is playing for something. We'll get into, the full playoff picture here in a little bit because there's a lot to watch over the last week. We've got a bunch of pretty fun races for the most part. Now, we talked last episode about Houston pending a drastic meltdown from Golden State. It does seem like the East and the West are once again solidified here. But we will talk about that in a little bit, among other things on this podcast. But we do want to start warming up with the official retirement of Rajon Rondo. A little bit kind of unceremonious, just happened here. The announcement came out and he was like, hey, I'm done here. I don't want to play anymore. Obviously hasn't been playing this season, but nevertheless, a pretty illustrious career to say the least. 4-time All-Star, 2-time NBA champ with Boston and with the Lakers. One of the few people to win on both sides of that rivalry. 3-time assist champ, all NBA in 2011, 2012, all rookie in 2006, 2007, 4-time all defensive. We'll get into Immaculate Grid later on the show as well, but kind of an Immaculate Grid darling. Obviously, I would say he's most known for his seasons with Boston, his breakout on the 2008 title team with them. Spent otherwise kind of a lot of bouncing around after that, to be quite honest. I mean, he got traded to Dallas.
Where he had a great time.
Yeah, that, again, was something I think a lot of people were hyped for. Didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
After that, I mean, you got 1 season in Sacramento. You got a season in Chicago. You got a season with the Pelicans. Then, of course, you got the 2 with the Lakers, most notably getting the title in the bubble with LeBron. With time with the Hawks, time with the Clippers, time with the Lakers again in 2021. And then, of course, ending his career officially now with the Cavs. He hasn't been in the league since 2022.
Sportskeeda put out a blog that is the 5 best moments of Rajon Rondo's career.
Okay.
Number 5 on their list, they've given them pretty good titles too. The greatest one-handed point guard is back when he dislocated his elbow in the third quarter, came back, only had one hand. I believe it was 2011 against the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
Number 4 is the historic triple-double where he posted the, 18 points, 20 assists, 17 rebounds. What else you got? Let's see if there's other his father-son moment, when the Lakers won, sitting kinda, like, in the confetti. I don't know if you remember that. But he was at that point, he was the first he might still be the only one, but, first player to win an NBA championship with the Celtics and the Lakers, which is kinda funny.
Oh, is he the only one still?
That's what he was when he won in 18-19. I don't know if he is.
No, he's gotta be. I mean, the
'Cause I
Celtics
don't think
haven't won since. I
Yeah.
mean, it's been since '08. Obviously, no one is playing from that team. There's plenty of
Yeah.
guys in the bubble, and
He
maybe
must
that
be.
yeah, I guess that could I don't think there's any overlap with Celtics and Lakers this year with a team that obviously could win the title. Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was number 1. I figured that would be kind of rare, obviously, given their,
Yeah. Rivalry.
rivalry, but,
Yep.
wow, there you go, good for him. Yeah, 7,500 career assists. I mean, 7,584 to be exact. 1,500 steals, 32 triple doubles, 9,300 points. I will always think of the behind the back move, the one hand fake, where you go and catch somebody and, kind of leave them and go
They
into the
all kinda,
layup.
like, jump to the side, and then he goes an easy
Yeah,
layup.
like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I think of most with the Rondo. I mean, that and the headband, weirdly, like,
Headband
Rondo
Rondo.
is one of those all headband players for me. But yeah, I mean, super successful NBA career. I don't know that Rondo's a Hall of Fame guy, but he's one of those Hall of very good guys. And to come out of it being on All NBA, multiple All Stars, like we said, 2 championships. So, I'm interested to see what he do next. You wonder if he goes into coaching or maybe he just chills out. I don't know, but either way, definitely a job well done for Rondo. Yeah, I think the ball fake is what I will always associate the most with him as a player. Do you have any, you mentioned some of his greater moments. Do you have one in particular that jumps off the page?
At moments for Rondo?
Yeah.
I mean, no, I just kinda always fearing him and being able to take over a game and just, at least from the Sixers side of things, put us out of our misery at times. But no, nothing specifically sticks out. I mean,
he had a game in 2012 against the Heat, and obviously I know they didn't win that series, but
yeah,
he had like 44 and 10 that game, and I think maybe something like 8 boards or so. Okay, it is 8 boards. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. That was the one where it was like, because Rondo was never a dynamic scorer necessarily. You knew he could score in bunches, but like he was never a super great shooter. He was more of a playmaker than anything else. But I remember him, like, he took it to them and they needed to win that game. And he just put the team on his back, took the lion's share of that offense, and just was getting to the rack at will. That is probably the game that stands out the most for me.
I found a Reddit page that was posted. Actually, this was 10 months ago, so very interesting. But it was asking if Rondo is going to be a Hall of Fame basketball player. And it really feels like people are kind of split on it. I think they said they put him at a 60% chance. Someone says Rondo's definitely one of those guys with intangibles, great leader, super competitive. There's definitely worse players in the Hall of Fame than Rondo. And then the other person says 1/3 team shouldn't be good enough to get you in. So it's kind of split decision. It feels like. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
because off the rip, like you just tell me, and I'm not looking at any numbers. You go, hey, Rondo in the Hall of Fame. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. I mean, everybody knows who Rondo is, but I guess I don't know. Once you start diving in a little bit,
I'm gonna do. We don't need to do it right now because I want to actually look at it, but I want to compare his numbers to like a Chauncey Billups, who I will talk about a little bit later in the episode in another preview to Ballin and Fallin, who just got into the Hall of Fame. I'm curious to see how their numbers stack up because they kind of have similar length careers here.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll get back to you on that when we talk a little bit of Hall of Fame. But
yeah, I'll see if I can pull it up. I just pulled up StatHead. They let you. I don't know if they let you do.
No, all right. I got it in front of me right now. So Billups has less assists. Like he is 5,600 to Rondo's almost 8,000, but Billups has way more points. I mean, Chauncey Billups has like 15,802 career points. Like there is a pretty wide margin on that front. I mean, accolades wise, more or less same number of all-star appearances. Rondo has 4, Billups has 5.
It's worth mentioning in head-to-head, though, Rondo's got him on regular season and playoffs.
Dude, it's honestly really close. I mean, Billups has 2 more All-NBAs than Rondo does. Rondo only had 1. Billups has 3. Billups has a championship as well, of course. He's got a finals MVP.
His VORP is like significantly higher than Rondo's. I'm assuming this is at the peak. Like peak VORP. Rondo's was 23. Billups is 43.5.
Wow, Jesus. What do you both what do their BPMs look like?
BPM Rondo was a 1.2. Chauncey's was a 3.2.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Chauncey's offensive was really high at its peak, 6.2, 6.5.
Yeah. Chauncey's played almost 100 more games than him, like you were saying, I think earlier. Rondo's only got a beat in rebounds, assists. He does have him beat in steals. Blocks don't really matter for those guys. Rondo's got him in field goal percentage. Chauncey's got 3-point free throw, effective field goal, BPM.
I don't care about the free. All right, we don't need to get that deep in the woods.
Listen, I'm just saying, at the end of the day, when these guys played each other in the playoffs, Rondo is 5-2 against Chauncey.
Okay, I will keep that in mind. It's when Billups was on, I think, the Knicks at that point. I mean, Billups had an underrated later career too. Again, we will talk about him later on the podcast. Welcome everybody to the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Joining me as always, my co-host Justin Cousart.
I'm thinking Hooters tonight with the fellas.
Oh my God, I know who this was too, and this
May
is May
9th, 2012.
Oh my goodness. Is this Booker?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I remember it was one of them back in the day. This is an iconic NBA tweet.
The first response under that is someone from August 6, 2020. It's Samuel L. Jackson as the Jedi with the lightsaber out, and it says he's too horny to be left alive.
First off, I'm not going to let you disrespect Mace Windu like that. The Jedi with the lightsaber out.
With the purple lightsaber, yeah.
Like my man is now one of the most powerful Jedi masters in the entire universe who took maybe the most powerful Sith Lord ever to the brink. Some would say he had him pinned. Others would say that Sidious was playing games. We really don't need to go down that whole other Star Wars podcast. Because let me tell you, I'm locked in on Bad Batch right now, but you can tweet me at Rafuse to Lose if you want to talk about Star Wars. If you want to help the show, you can leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We will read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you can find your podcasts, you can find us.
And you can follow us on YouTube, Drive and Dish NBA Podcast. We're still looking for number 69, which is a great number to get. So you can find us, search Drive and Dish NBA. When you subscribe, obviously, you'll get notifications when new episodes are coming out. That way, you never miss one.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Knicks fans have been preparing themselves for this moment because after 2 months of rehab and an attempt to return, the news has come out today that Julius Randle is going to have season-ending right shoulder surgery, which is not easy to say. Kind of feels like a door closing moment for the Knicks season, though they'll most likely be in a playoff scenario, but definitely way less, I guess the word's expectations for what we will see out of them going into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, this is devastating. There's no other way around it. And I mean, we talked about Randle being one of those guys who really needs to, kind of prove it in the playoffs. And now you just won't get the chance to. I do think this was still a little bit of a surprise. I know it was 2 months, like you said, but you were kind of under the impression that he was going to start ramping up towards the playoffs. And instead you just hit with this bomb today that he won't be and that he's out for the rest of the season. This comes as the Knicks have been dealing with injuries. Obviously, we know OG Anunoby returned recently, but he missed time. I think it's disappointing for Knicks fans because you saw what this team was when everybody was healthy and clicking.
And I wonder, the OG stuff, right? He had the surgery on his elbow, and he's kind of been in and out. And I know we kind of talked about like, well, you got to get him back because you got to play now. It's like, I mean, do we get to a point where it's like, what's the point of him playing now? If we really don't have win it all expectations with the Knicks because of Randle being out, maybe it makes sense for OG to not play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite know that you go that far because I think you want to, give a bit of a fight here. Still, this roster is deep. I think that the Knicks are going to be a pesky out still. I'm not suggesting that the season is over. It's just, yes, it's very capped at this point, pending a miracle. I mean, they're 5th in the East as we're recording this podcast. They've got 2 games right now on the Heat and Pacers. They're a half game back of the Magic. They have lost 3 in a row going into this. The Magic are playing well. You probably expect them to stay up above now. They're only a game back of the Cavs too, but again, sort of same deal. I know the Cavs have been kind of struggling here late, but
believe me, I know the Magic is doing well. Your boy Chase has been making a point to let me know about it.
Dude, the Magic might be 2 by the time.
That would be crazy.
Like,
that'd be wild.
They're 2 back of the Bucks. Like, there's a window where the Magic get up to 2. I don't know that they quite get there, but
that'd be crazy.
An insane sentence, like even beyond our wildest expectations for the Magic if they get up.
That'd be awesome for them. That would be great for them, and the social media team would be going off. It's worth mentioning, OG, this tweet was put out on April 1st. He had missed about 8 games in a row again with the elbow stuff. And that's where I just go back to like, look at this point. Why risk maybe even next season? And isn't he on? You got to bring it, like, you got to figure out what you're doing with him this offseason. So there's a little bit of that too. Yeah.
They got to pay him. He's going to want max money. All indications when they made the trade is that they're working on giving him the max money. I don't think they make that deal without the intention of bringing him back.
Right. I agree.
And so to that point, you do want to balance it a little bit. It's just brutal for them because I mean, they are getting healthy in other ways too. Like Mitchell Robinson is ramping up and getting ready to go. He hasn't played in quite a while. Everything else feels like it's, they were great in the playoffs last year, like won a 1st round series. They were tough in the 2nd round. I don't know. You felt like they were going to build on that a little bit. And just because I think you look at the East and go, it's pretty wide open right now. Outside of Boston, who obviously has this huge, massive advantage. I mean, with the Sixers having dealt with injuries, with Miami, you just look, we know what Miami's probably going to do come playoff time. Like, I'm always going to give them the benefit of the doubt, but like, you do play with the expectations of like, well, they've been pretty bad in the regular season. Like, what is going to happen here? Is it finally the year it doesn't happen? But I don't know. It feels like the East is wide open right now. There's still a lot to play for. I mean, the intriguing part of the East right now to me is kind of like, and I promise this isn't just because I'm being a homer, but it's that 6 to 8 spot. Like, you have the Heat, you got the Pacers, and you got the Sixers. The Heat have jumped to 6 as of recording this. They are tied record-wise with the Pacers. And Pacers have played 2 extra games. But there is still a window where the Sixers could get up to 6 and avoid the play-in altogether. They basically have to win out. The Sixers play Miami later tonight, so that is a must-win. I'd argue for both of them.
Big one. Honestly, though, like, even though, and I know this is getting down the line, and this is talking play-in tournament, though, like, with the Bulls and Hawks, like, would you prefer to play either of those teams in that scenario? Like, I'm not. Maybe just because the Hawks have won 7 of the last 3, I'd rather play the Bulls with everything going on. But like, do either of them scare anybody above them?
No, I think whoever is in this play-in tournament, whichever 2 teams is going to be, especially the 7 and 8. So either 2 of the 3 of the Sixers, the Heat, and the Pacers, most likely, they're going to be fighting for their lives to get that 7 because, it is a massive difference right now. And I know Milwaukee is Milwaukee, But Milwaukee's been pretty pedestrian recently. Boston has 60 wins.
Yeah,
Like, there's a big difference if you play, like, even with the Sixers arguably being dangerous, and that gets us into Joel Embiid coming back, beating Oklahoma City the other night. Like, they are ramping up, and there is still this window here for them to get out of that spot. If they get 8 and they play Boston first round, it's over. Like, I don't care how, you can feel positive about this team. But if you get to 7 and you beat Milwaukee, all of a sudden it's wide open given everything else. And that's where I think for the Sixers and the Heat, you got to feel pretty good. Like, no disrespect to Orlando and Cleveland and the Knicks, but I still have more faith in the Sixers and Miami over any of those teams.
Well, and I guess the counter argument is, if you're going to go to the finals, you got to go to the Celtics at some point anyway.
Man, I want to play them in the conference finals, not the first round.
I know. And from that, it's like Embiid gets more games in theory. His conditioning gets back up. But let's talk about the OKC Embiid coming back game. Because there was some weird stuff going on where, like, people were, like, wanting to do an investigation on it because he wasn't there. And then all of a sudden he was playing, and it was, like, confusing. And then the game happens, and OKC is missing their 2 top scorers.
Yep.
The Sixers barely inch out a win. They run Embiid into the ground of exhaustion. He's dying on the side of the court trying to breathe. You got Kelly Oubre Jr., who's balling out of his mind on a heater. You have Tobias Harris actively trying to shoot us out of that game while Kelly Oubre is wide open on the side for threes. There was so much to unpack in that game, and it was so exciting because they were playing the same time the Phillies were playing. I was bouncing between the two. Nothing felt more Pennsylvania, Philadelphia city love than watching this. And the Phillies won. It felt fine. I think they won. Phillies won. It felt fine. And then I'm watching the end of the Sixers game, and I'm like, none of this feels good to me. You got Embiid, who's literally, like, pretending to lay on the ground longer so he can get some rest. He's clearly feeling it in his knees, limping around. And it's like, man, if this one game of him coming back re-injures him because we had to play him 30 minutes just to win the damn thing, and we miss him for the playoffs, like, I'm going to be pissed off.
I don't think he would have played, though, if he wasn't ready to go. And
sure,
I'm with you a little bit, I guess, on the management in terms of him, like, playing all those minutes. At the same time, like, I think Joel just recognizes the urgency of it. And
I agree.
I came out of that more enthused because you're right. I mean, it was a little closer than you would like with SGA being out. With
Jackson, I think
there's Jalen
Williams. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's a little closer than you'd like. At the same time, I go, that's Embiid's first game back. Like, you got to – I don't think he's fully in game shape yet. Like, there's going to be a little uneasiness with it. Tobias Harris, there's nothing you can do at this point, man. Tobias Harris is just an absolute nightmare. And our light at the end of the tunnel is that he's just not going to be on the roster at the end of the season. Like, it's just over with. I would have liked to see them move at the trade deadline, given how bad he was. Even, like, he was horrendous when Embiid was out. Like, he looked like not like an NBA player. Like, forget the fact that he's overpaid. He looked like he couldn't do anything. And you're right. There were possessions late where it's like, dude, I think about when he dribbled right to the free throw line and then just airballed the jumper. He missed a 3 pretty bad at the end of the game. Like,
and the big thing was, like, in the last, like, minute and a half, the Sixers are pushing it up. They're doing their thing. They're not stopping the ball so that OKC can essentially get Giddy in the game, which is what they were trying to do. And they handed it to Tobias, and he just took this, like, early clock shot. Yep. I was like, and now they can bring Giddy in. This is how we lose the damn game. And I'm going to be so pissed off.
Joel got the steal on Giddy, and I think that matters late. I also think it's worth noting, too, that, the Thunder were missing 2 stars that game. The Sixers also didn't have Tyrese Maxey in that game, too.
That's
so
fair.
There was a little bit of, Covington, in theory, should be back. Melton, I know, has been real touch and go this season.
Batum's defense, by the way, in that game was impressive.
Batum's been great now that he's locked in. Like, there are reasons to be enthused about this team. It's just, the Sixers and the Pacers and Heat as well would ideally like to avoid Boston. I'm not as bullish on that for Miami because Miami's done this before. Like, I do kind of think Miami
like,
could take it to Boston in the first round. Like, that's a real interesting test for Boston right out of the gate. But that's a team where I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that I'm not willing to give the Sixers because they've done this before.
What happens if the Heat and Celtics play in the first round and the Celtics get bounced in the first round?
I think you have real existential crisis mode about the Celtics at that point. If it's up now, I don't think that's going to happen for the record.
No, I
the
don't
hater
either,
in me with the homer hat hopes it happens. But no, I mean, at that point, I think you really got to look at the core and you go, okay, what do we do? Do we shake this up? It's been multiple years now.
I would love nothing more than a Timberwolves Orlando Magic finals.
It would be electric. I love it too. That would be absolutely
or what would be even crazier is an OKC Orlando Magic one. Smaller cities, super young teams. It'd be like, yes, let's go. Let's continue this. Like, let's build up this kind of back and forth between the two. That'd be awesome. And then, a few years down the line, you got these two going at it, and you got Wemby and the Spurs back in it.
I think that's cute. I think the NBA would have a heart attack if it was OKC Orlando. I think you and I would love it. I think the purists would love it. I think the NBA would not.
They'd be like, dude, what are we doing?
And they have, granted, like, we don't need to get in the X's and O's that. There's plenty of star power there, and I think they could market it.
They would have to, though. They would be doing some overtime work on that. Yeah, maybe because they also, I feel like they'd also be a little worried about, like, too much mention of Giddey with what happened early in the season.
I'm not that far. Giddey's been fine. I feel like
it went away.
I don't really know what to say there. They press charges. Like,
right.
I don't feel good about it, but I don't feel like at the end of the day, no one was arrested. And so I don't want to, I don't want to slander somebody either.
I agree. It went away in an odd way. So, and that's where we are.
Before we go back out west, I do want to take a look at this play-in race. Miami has the most games left. They've still got 7. The Pacers have 5. The Sixers have 6. Again, Miami and the Sixers are playing tonight in a crucial game. So, like, we will know the result of that. The rest of the way, Miami has Houston. They do have Indy. So that, again, huge implications on the play-in potentially. They've got Atlanta. They've got Dallas. And then they end with back-to-back against Toronto. Both of those are in Miami. Little bit more difficult with some of these games. Like, obviously the Sixers are going to be tough just because they're both going to be something to play for. Houston's fighting for their lives right now. Same with Indy. Dallas is on a roll, but you've got 2 extremely winnable games to end the season with Toronto. I think you got to win in Atlanta as well. Indy's got OKC. They've got Miami, who we talked about. They've got Toronto. They've got Cleveland. They've got Atlanta. Cleveland's going to be fighting for playing seeds. So, like, that's a tougher game for Indy here. OKC is a tough game. Miami is a tough game. I don't know. That feels more difficult than Miami's run.
Yeah.
The Sixers, to me, have the softest. The Sixers of Miami tonight, if they can get by Miami, your next 3 are Memphis, San Antonio, and Detroit. You have to win all those games if you're getting out of the play-in. Then you've got Orlando, which is a tougher game with them playing for seeding too, but it's at home. And then you end the season with Brooklyn, who I feel like has to be a win given where Brooklyn's at. So, in a way, I think the Sixers schedule is the most favorable. Now, the problem is the Sixers are a game and a half back of Indy and Miami right now. So this could very well be one of those instances of running out of time.
Yep.
If they lose to Miami tonight, I do think they'll have just run out of time. They're going to be in the 7-8 game, which, again, not the end of the world, but you better win that, you better win that 7-8 game and not get Miami first round.
And that's what I was going to say. Do you but also would it take a little bit of, like, if you lose to the Heat tonight, not saying because this is definitely loser mentality, you lose to the Heat tonight, then you can kind of take a chill, if that makes sense. Cause you're definitely not getting, like, the Bulls and the Hawks aren't catching you.
Yeah, if you get the Heat to 6 and then you say at that point, like, hey, do I want Indy or do I want Miami in the 7 or 8 game? I would rather have Indy. And I know Indy's matched up well against the Sixers this year, but Indy's been on a noticeable downswing in the second half compared to Miami, who just made the finals last year as an 8 seed. So, again, benefit of the doubt, I'm going to give to Miami more than anything else.
I agree.
Indy, again, that game with Miami is crucial. They still can control their own destiny here a little bit. I mean, standings wise, the Sixers have 35 losses, the Pacers have 34, the Heat have 33. So the Heat are in the driver's seat right now. It's going to be an exciting finish there. But again, I think that 7 is that 6 and that 7, just because of Boston looming in the first round, like that's going to be a major difference. Nobody wants that 8. I think from 2 to 7, you can talk yourself into any of those teams winning any of those series. I don't feel like that with 1-8, no matter who it is. Like Miami's the only one that I'm going to give any bit of credence to against Boston. That's just where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's bouncing Boston in the East. I feel like the safe money, the chalky, obvious answer is the number 1 seed in the East is probably going to be in it next year. The West, a different story. There's a lot going on there, but that's another day, I think.
I mean, the West is a few races to watch. Like you've got the top seeds will be interesting with Minnesota, Denver, and OKC. It feels like those are going to be the top 3 in some order. The Clippers are even with their struggles recently are kind of in the driver's seat for 4. But after that, I mean, between 5 and 9, it's still very much up for grabs. I mean, it's a difference of 2 games right now. So you got currently as it stands, you've got Dallas at 5, Phoenix at 6, New Orleans at 7, Sacramento at 8, the Lakers at 9. The Warriors are 10 at 41 and 34. They are 4 back of Dallas or 5, but the biggest thing, again, that we mentioned to the change since last episode is they're now 3 up fully over Houston. They won 5 in a row. Houston, again, an extremely admirable charge late to make this interesting, but it does feel like the Warriors are going to get in. Now, can they jump up and avoid that 9 to 10 game? That's maybe a little bit of a tougher ask right now.
Who do you have the most confidence in?
Well, so I'll tell you. Well, let me start with who I have the least confidence in out of those teams
at
this point. And one Lakers? Of them, no, it's Sacramento, and it's Sacramento because of injury. Like Sacramento now is missing Malik Monk for the next 4 to 6 with a knee injury.
Yeah.
If they get to the second round, he can come back. But, this is a team now with him and with Kevin Huerter out. It just feels like they're lacking the firepower of some of these other teams in order to kind of avoid the play-in. Like I would worry about the Kings. And it'd be extremely disappointing given where they were last year and just to unfortunately fall because of injuries. But I feel like the Kings are the team that everybody should be trying to get here right now, over New Orleans, over Phoenix, even over the Lakers, maybe a little bit. I think the Kings can still beat the Warriors, but I don't feel super good about that necessarily. Schedule-wise, it is worth mentioning the Warriors have the Rockets tonight. So the Rockets basically have to win. Like if the Rockets have any chance of getting in this, they have to beat Golden State tonight.
Well, and by the way, your record of Texas teams doing well since a certain
my record. Wait, my record.
The one you brought up.
Purveyor of information.
Yeah. That one had taken off a little bit more. I'd seen some other teams added to it, and there were some more wins on there. So maybe there's something to that. Just saying.
No. So Golden State.
You saw. Wait. You saw what Tiger Woods said he's doing, right?
No. What's Tiger Woods doing?
He's ramping up for the Masters. And he's locked in. One of his buddies said one of the things he does when he's ramping up for the Masters is he's not allowed to get it on. He's
It's so funny because there are some athletes who like it's one or the other. It's either they try to do more or try to do none at all.
Of it, yeah.
I don't know. Well, to each his own, I guess. Golden State the rest of the way is Houston, Dallas, Utah, the Lakers, Portland, New Orleans, and Utah. So, I mean, Utah's lost 10 in a row. With Portland as well, there's 3 they should win. Pretty tough though. Otherwise, they're definitely going to sweat it out a little bit.
Utah too. By the way, if the Grizzlies were to win a few and Utah can lose a few more, like they definitely get themselves. That's reachable. Yeah. That would be reachable at least in the West in terms of being in the bottom 3 in the West with that.
Lakers are at 9 right now. They've got 5 left. They've got Cleveland, Minnesota, Golden State, Memphis, and New Orleans. So that's kind of tough. Like you got maybe one gimme with Memphis, but everybody else is going to be fighting for their lives there. The Kings' schedule is brutal for the most part. Like I feel like there's this tough. You got the Knicks, though, obviously with the Knicks missing Randle. But it's on the road, and that's tonight. But you've got a back-to-back with them in Boston. That's again 2 pretty difficult ones on the road.
Yeah,
you've got Brooklyn, who you would hope that you could beat. But then OKC, New Orleans, and Phoenix, which are all crucial, like borderline must-win games for the Kings if they're going to avoid the play-in here. Especially with Phoenix and New Orleans, and then you end with Portland, so at least you've got kind of a good one to end on. The Pelicans, they've got 6 left. They've got San Antonio, Phoenix, Portland, Sacramento, Golden State, and the Lakers. So the Pelicans, they kind of control their own destiny here too, because they're playing all these play-in teams for the most part. They've lost 3 in a row.
I feel like
to Boston, Phoenix, and Orlando. So, not the worst thing in the world. You hope they got to beat San Antonio. Like you hope you bounce back and you beat San Antonio. I don't think I did Phoenix's schedule, actually. Let me run Phoenix's schedule real quick. I feel like I forgot about them. They've got Minnesota, New Orleans, the Clippers back-to-back, the Kings and Minnesota again. So, yeah, the Suns probably have it the worst, honestly. Like, because Minnesota is going to be competing. Minnesota wants that one. So they're going to be fighting New Orleans, obviously. The Clippers don't want to slide, potentially, risk that with Dallas. There's a lot to play for. This last week's going to be fun, especially in the West. And even forget the play-in, like the hypothetical matchup right now, 4-5 is Clippers and Dallas. Like you want to talk about a series that has no love lost. Like that could be a lot of fun as well. Potentially Phoenix in the mix there as well with Book and Luka. The West is, to me, a little more intriguing than the East to watch towards the end.
Definitely.
Like the East are going to be playing for seeding here a little bit. But for the most part, it's only really the play-in game is the one to watch. And then, like I said, a game of that with tonight with Miami and the Sixers, like that's a pretty crucial one already.
And just to kind of provide the update, I saw that Zion, it was actually going to be part of my Ballin and Fallin, but he ended up being fine, so I didn't put it on there. He did hurt his finger the other day, and they had to give it X-rays, but they said structurally it's fine. He's just sore a little bit, which is good because, like we said, they don't really have any room to falter.
We need all hands on deck. Like it's just that time of year. These matchups matter, especially playing. Like getting out of the play matters. Guaranteed 7 games goes a long way.
Yep.
All right, who's balling? Who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like start with the good before the bad. So balling for me this week, I've got the Hall of Famers, Chauncey Billups and Vince Carter. I already kind of ran Chauncey Billups' resume earlier in the show. Obviously, Detroit is who everyone and correctly should associate him with. Stints otherwise with Boston, with Denver, with Minnesota, with the Knicks, with the Nuggets, and with the Clippers. But again, the crucial part, big shot Billups of those Pistons teams that dominated the East for so long with Ben Wallace and Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Rip Hamilton, etc., the rest of the gang. And then, of course, Vince Carter, 8-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, Rookie of the Year, 98-99. Probably the greatest in-game dunk ever with a dunk over Frederick Weiss playing for Team USA. Probably the greatest dunk contest performer ever. Iconic dunk contest back in 2000. Really, it was one of the guys who you think about when you think about the dunk contest.
Just because I had this up when we were comparing other players, I changed out to include Vince Carter. Chauncey Billups and Vince Carter played each other 29 times. And what do you think the record is, and who has the winning side of that record?
Wait, so it's 29. Is it 15 and 14? Tell me it's 15 and 14.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
that's disappointing.
No.
I'll say Vince has got it. No, Chauncey's definitely got it. Chauncey was on better teams, I feel like.
Chauncey's got it by like a good bit. 21-8.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Vince Carter, raw stat wise, 25,728 points, 4,700 assists, 6,600 rebounds. Most notably will probably be remembered with the Raptors. Pretty successful stint as well in New Jersey. And then he's one of those guys who bounced around too. Stints with the Magic.
An Immaculate Grid must, if you will.
All the time. Yeah, I use them all the time. Stints with the Magic, with the Suns, with the Mavericks for 3 years, with the Grizzlies for 3 years, with the Kings for a season. And then, of course, ending with the Hawks. His last season, 2020, one of the moments that I think will weirdly stick with me longer was Vince Carter's last game, because it was right when everyone realized, and give the Hawks credit for being aware of this, when everything looked like it was going to shut down when COVID started. The Hawks weren't in bubble position, and so they all kind of collectively had this realization, like, holy crap, this just turned into Vince Carter's last game. And so they put him in. He buried a 3 at the end of the game. So I think too, just his impact off the court. Because towards the end of his career, obviously he was way more of a role guy. But he did have a 20+ year career. But I think too, off the strength of the impact, he's one of those guys that really, kind of made a push for the Hall of Fame that way.
Yeah, and obviously like one that I know a lot of kids looked up to, growing up. It was one jersey that you always wanted to get anyway. So,
yeah, I mean, the old school Raptors jerseys are just always undefeated in my mind, like the purple dinosaur ones, like
with the Carter on the back. That's always how you looked at it. So
you already know. But shall we? Wait a minute. I almost said let's get into Immaculate Grid. Good Lord, we got so much more Ballin and Fallin to go. Justin, who is balling for you this week?
The Boston Celtics, we already talked about them. We don't have to go much more into it. They clinched the #1 overall seed. They've got home court in 2024. First team in the NBA to have a 60-win season this year, at least. They're the first team to pass that mark, and it's the first time they've done it in 15 years. The last time they did it was 08-09. So
yeah, nobody's going to catch them either. I mean, Minnesota and Denver right now are tied for second in terms of wins. They both got 53. So I mean, short of something drastic happening here in the last few weeks, they're not going to get caught for best overall record. I mean, look, there's an argument that people are sleeping on this Boston team, weirdly, because they're so thoroughly leading the East right now. But I don't know. I mean, given the past couple of seasons, like, I do think they're the overwhelming favorite in the East, but I do think they are going to have a tough test with whoever comes out of the West. Like, Denver has been in that mode recently. Minnesota, I think in particular, is pesky as well. I don't know. I mean, I think we're, spoiler alert, as we get into playoff previews eventually, like, I do think we're kind of in a crash course for a Denver-Boston final.
Yeah. I think that's probably a safe bet. More safe on the Boston side. Maybe something crazy happens in the West, but that's probably
the East. Is the Boston should, in theory, cruise through the East. Milwaukee to me is down. It's just Miami, weirdly, and Miami may not get there. Like, that's the thing, is if I don't know where the bracket's going to break, but like, there are ways where they don't have to play Miami either. Like, maybe this is the year it falls out for Miami. Their offense has been pretty putrid at points. I just they have reached that I got to see it to believe it category.
Yeah, I agree. So what's your Fallin?
Fallin for me this week is Steve Clifford. He announced that he will be resigning as the Cliffords, as the Hornets head coach at the end of the season. He's going to transition to a front office role. Steve Clifford's been with that franchise for a long time.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think getting their next hire right will be crucial. There's a lot that they need to get figured out in Charlotte. I don't want to completely dump on them, because I feel like that's what I kind of do on this podcast at times. So I think the one thing you do have to be enthused about for Charlotte is that Brandon Miller looks good, man. Like, I was pretty down on Brandon Miller as a prospect. And not even for the off the court stuff. Like, I didn't think he was going to translate well. Like, I thought Scoot was a superior prospect to Brandon Miller. And Brandon Miller shined this year. Like, give him credit. Like, I was wrong about that a little bit. He looks like they have a star. And with the injuries that we talked a little bit about last week with LaMelo Ball, that may be important. Like, getting that first guy, that may go a long way for them. Ideally, you're going to pump another high pick. And listen, if you hit on that, this can change quickly. But
I thought it was kind of weird that he did it this early, but it does make sense. Gives them an early start in the coaching search.
Yeah.
Apparently
he's a loyal guy. Like, he likes Charlotte. He's obviously, like, he was there before, got fired, and then came back to them eventually. So again, like you said, I think he's trying to give them a heads up,
a head start. And it's not like he's leaving. Like, he's still going to be in the front
part of it.
And so does help in that aspect. In 10 seasons as an NBA coach, he's 337 to 457 losses.
I mean, it's been a lot of Charlotte, a lot of Orlando, and his years in Orlando weren't exactly like I feel like he got the most out of those Orlando teams, but they're pretty capped in where
they were
were
pretty
playing.
tough. Yeah, I agree.
That's the point. But all right, who's fallen for you this week?
Fallin for me is the Lakers. So on February 1st, the Lakers were 25-25 in 9th place in the West. Since then, they've really picked it up. They're doing well. They've got a 70% win percentage. They've gone 19-8, and guess what that means? They're in 9th place. They didn't change.
Yeah, it is brutal when that happens at some point.
It's like, damn, yo, you guys played real good, but the West is so tight, it don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing for them is again, we've talked about extensively, is they're just within striking distance of everybody. Like, you can jump Sacramento with one win. You could potentially jump the Pelicans and jump the Suns, and then all of a sudden you're out of play-in position. Like, there is still a way. I could the Lakers, if they get to 6, no one's going to want to play them in the first round.
No.
But I think Denver smokes them. If for some reason it would be Denver. Denver's been smoking them for the past 2 seasons. And so I don't know. It's been a weird up and down season for the Lakers. There's no way around it. Like,
I feel like the past few seasons has been like that for the Lakers. So
I mean, this year you got the IST at least, so that's cool. But yeah, I don't think they're going to come out of the West, and I think that's anytime you have LeBron, it's just the expectations are a little different, and so I think that's just what you got to deal with here. But all right, now shall we switch gears into some Immaculate Grid here a little bit? Of course, we've been doing these really for a while now.
Oh, I have. By the way, I pulled up the percentages of the grid. I figured that would be fun to look at before we have the answers.
Okay, I was like, wait a minute, did you play already? I was like, how do we get the percentages already?
Yeah, you can pull them up on the side here, so you can pull it up. Yeah. So
there you go. I didn't think you could do that to the end, so that's good to know. All right. So you can watch the Immaculate Grid on YouTube, where you can watch the whole podcast. Just search Driving Dish NBA podcast. Still looking for subscriber 69, so that'd be fun. But for the audio users, audio listeners, I should say, here this week on Immaculate Grid, our columns from left to right, we've got the Cavaliers, we've got the Raptors, and we've got 10 rebounds per game per season. For our rows from top to bottom, we got the Thunder, we got the Trailblazers, and we got the Pistons. I don't think there's any Elfrid Payton connections anywhere, Justin.
No, but I saw the Cavs and immediately was like, "Oh man, can I do a Delhi plug?" But I don't think he works either. Sadly,
I know Sacramento, no Milwaukee.
No.
I don't think there's a way to get Rondo in here either. I was going to try to maybe find Cavs? Rondo, but
didn't he was on the Cavs for a second, right?
Cavs, no Blazers though, no Thunder, no Pistons.
We do have Rondo, not Rondo, Ricky Rubio, right? He was OKC Cavs.
Was he on OKC?
I think so, right?
Do I have Rubio?
That I thought so.
I don't think so, dude. I don't remember on OKC at all.
All right. Well, maybe I'm off then. Maybe
I'll come back to that a little bit. All right. Where are we? So 10 rebounds a game per season. OKC, the obvious one is Russell Westbrook because he averaged a triple-double.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, that one is pretty there.
And he doesn't work anywhere else. I mean, we could do
Adams,
that.
I think, probably had 10 a game in OKC.
Perk didn't, right? Perkins never did.
Dude. So I really actually unironically thought about that for a second. He didn't play enough minutes.
No, but does Perk work? He went to the Cavs at one point.
Dude, he was way at the end of his career when he was playing for the. I don't think he was playing anything more.
No, but that's what I'm saying. He works for that connection, OKC Cavs.
He does work for OKC Cavs. No, you're right. That would actually, and that's a good one, dude. I think that'll be really low. So yeah, Kendrick Perkins definitely works. Never mind. He's on TV. Just kidding.
Holy cow!
Never mind. Perk's on TV. I guess that makes sense.
Holy moly, dude!
A little bit,
dude. Wow. And I've got a guy. I think for Cavs Trailblazers. Alonzo G.
Alonzo G does work. I can't believe I know that well. He 100% works. Another gem.
Alonzo G 0.7,
Hell
dude.
yeah. Another gem of Immaculate Grid who works all the time for everywhere would have worked there, and that's Andre Miller. Andre Miller works in a lot of places, including Trailblazers and Cavs. I think Andre Miller might actually work for Raptors and Cavs too. Raptors and Blazers. I know he works for Blazers because he scored 50 on the Blazers.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I'm not confident enough that he was in Toronto, but he's one of those where I'm like, he played in so many places that it may not surprise me either.
He might be there, yeah. All right. Do we want to take a stab at the 10 rebounds?
Yeah. So do you want to do? I guess if we just work our way down, I mean, Russ and Steven Adams are the two I can think of right away. The one, if you want to go back, and I mean, here's the thing: I think people will think of it, because he was pretty good, to put it bluntly. But with OKC being the Sonics, all the Sonic stuff is available.
Oh boy,
I think Shawn Kemp definitely had 10 boards a game.
You want to try to go Kemp?
Yeah, I kind of do. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, Russ is obvious. Like,
Russ is obvious. Russ definitely works. Steven Adams, I'm not confident on, but I think probably does work. Let's go Kemp.
Yeah, let's do Shawn Kemp. I'm with it.
Okay, 28%. Okay.
I mean, he's probably the most popular rebounder in terms of the Sonics. Okay. So that part is necessarily surprising. It's more of just that I think people forget that OKC, or you hope that maybe people forget that OKC were the Sonics before that. It's been a little bit now. So all right, that definitely works there. Let's look at some of these. Toronto and OKC. Toronto and OKC. Dennis Schroeder works. We use Dennis Schroeder a lot, but he works there.
When Nerlens Noel ended up on OKC for a sec, did he ever end up in Toronto? I don't think so.
Oh man,
I don't think he did.
I don't think
at least if he did, it doesn't. If he did, it doesn't stick out to me. So
he was on Knicks. He was on Pistons for a little bit. He definitely was on OKC.
Yeah.
It's not sticking with me either. Detroit and Cleveland. Detroit and Cleveland. Ben Wallace works. I mean, he's obviously really popular, but Ben Wallace started his career in Cleveland, and I know he was definitely there at the end as well.
So do you want to do that, or do we want to do Ben Wallace in rebounds? Do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, Ben Wallace definitely works rebound wise.
But we could go Blake Griffin here, right?
For rebounds?
You think?
Oh man,
I don't know.
Like, I do, but not enough to bet on it.
Yeah.
Rasheed Wallace, I don't think was quite getting to 10. Dude, the Pistons 10 a game that's obvious is Drummond. Drummond definitely was getting 10 a game.
Drummond, yeah. Well, do you want to go Drummond there then?
So I think he's obvious. Like, that's the thing. And so that's the other one that I think
did Drummond end up on the Cavs?
Yeah, Drummond definitely ended up on the Cavs.
So I guess if we wanted to, we could try to flip it to get the lower percentages on each.
Yeah, that's true. Dude, you know who else I think is going to work for Detroit in 10 a game, who was there with Drummond as well? Greg Monroe. I think Greg Monroe. He was close. Like, it's real. Drummond, I know, had 10 a game. Drummond, for all the things you can say about Andre Drummond, he's a hell of a rebounder. That dude grabs boards left and right.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to do Drummond for Cavs and Pistons and then do Greg Monroe for 10 a game?
Let's do it. Drummond.
I feel confident enough in Greg to
29. All right, Greg Monroe. There he is. 2%, baby. There it is.
I got a little worried as we got close. I was trying to think of the other, like, in the 80s, like, go back to some of the Pistons big guys, but like, Dennis Rodman obviously would have worked too. That I always forget it. I just forget that he starts the Pistons sometimes.
LaMarcus Aldridge will work here.
Yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge definitely works there.
Nurkic? Would Nurkic work there? He'd be close. I don't trust it.
Maybe. Like, I want to say yes, but I don't. I mean, well, he has to, right?
I mean, maybe.
He was 5 for a while. Like, and he played a lot of minutes.
I mean, yeah.
I think Nurkic is getting 10 a game. Aldridge 100% was getting 10 a game. Like that part I'm not worried about.
Which one do you feel?
The other obvious one for Portland is Bill Walton. Bill Walton was definitely at his peak getting 10 a game. Bill Walton's also a Hall of Famer and probably one of their more iconic players.
He's probably, I feel like all three of those are common. I mean, Nurkic was just there.
No, they are, and Aldridge is better. Nurkic has the recency thing, though. I mean, I'm inclined to go Nurkic if we're going to go one of those threes. I'm confident enough that he was there.
You want to go Nurkic?
I'm fine. I mean, he was recent, so I think it'll be high. 17. Okay, he's definitely there. All right, let me check. I'm curious how many he had, or if we were definitely overthinking this a little bit. Oh okay. Yeah, we were definitely overthinking it. He had 11 in 2021, 22. He had 10 he had 10 4 different times for Portland, and he was at 9 in the other season. So yeah, okay, we did overthink that a little bit.
Okay,
all right,
that's fine.
So to recap for the podcast listeners so far, we got 6 of the 9 so far. Kendrick Perkins for Cleveland and OKC, Alonzo Gee for Cavs and Trailblazers. That's definitely the guess of the grid so far. Andre Drummond for Cavs and Pistons. Greg Monroe for Pistons, 10 boards a game. Yusuf Nurkic for Blazers, 10 a game. And Sean Kemp for Thunder,
we
10 a game.
We didn't really like the Raptors here, did we?
Yeah, we're completely out on this category. All right.
I mean, Marcus Camby is the obvious one for Blazers Raptors.
Look at you pulling out Marcus Camby. All right.
But I feel like that's going to be the obvious one. I mean, I think so, right?
I'm trying to think. I mean, no, well, I think it's him, and the other one is Damon Stoudemire. Damon Stoudemire is the first pick in Raptors franchise history, and he played for a while in Portland. Either way, we have one for there. We also have one for the top. Dennis Schroeder definitely played.
Oh, yeah, Schroeder.
In OKC and in Toronto.
You're right. We should do that. And then there's like an Ish Smith or Danny Green or Jeff Green work here.
I don't think Danny definitely didn't play for Detroit. He played for Toronto.
Yeah.
Ish definitely played for Detroit.
I don't think he played for Toronto.
I don't think he played for Toronto.
Isaiah Cannon.
We're just naming names at this point.
Yeah. Damn. Pistons, Raptors.
God, I don't think Ish ever played for. I don't think Ish played for Toronto, so he can't really work anywhere.
Wow.
Jeff Green, I feel like did play for Toronto, but I'm not 100% about that at all.
Yeah. All right.
Sonics too, for how long he's been around. So if he had played for Toronto, he'd work for OKC.
Oh yeah. So should we just do Schroeder here?
I guess for the sake of time, we start narrowing these down.
Dennis Schroeder, boom, for Raptors OKC. It's a lock.
God, our percentage is this week. G is an all-time guess, but man, our percentages kind of stink this week.
I know. We're bums this week for percentages.
So either Damon Stoudemire or who was the other one we said for Portland, Toronto?
Portland, Toronto, Camby? No.
Yeah, Camby. Marcus Camby. Marcus Camby didn't play for Detroit, did he? I don't think he did.
That I don't know. What about, wasn't there, I'm trying to think of LeBron James stoppers that moved around a lot.
Oh, did PJ Tucker?
PJ Tucker. No, did like Lance Stevenson? I don't think he ever.
I don't think he was ever on any of these teams, honestly.
No.
I'm trying to think of like the other Blazers who were on like those name teams. So like the Wes Matthews of the world, the Nick Batum.
Oh yeah, Wes Matthews would work there. Batum.
No, I don't think Wes works on any of these.
No. I mean, I was sorry. I was just looking at Blazers.
Yeah, Pistons and Raptors is giving me fits right now.
Pistons, Raptors.
Greg Monroe would have worked there too. Darn it.
Tracy McGrady.
Okay, I always forget if McGrady. I know he signed a 10-day with one team late, and I always forget if it's the Pistons or not. I know he was there at one point. I know he was, and if he was, It's 100% because I know obviously we know he's with the Raptors.
Right.
I'm inclined to guess that though, because I'm really kind of stumped otherwise. Thad Young didn't play in Detroit. Like I'm trying to think of guys that are on the roster.
Oh, right.
Didn't. Otto Porter didn't.
Big men. Who else was big men wise? Like Ibaka?
No, I don't think Ibaka ever
Orlando.
played in Detroit. What about like a DeLon Wright? I think DeLon Wright played in Detroit. He played for Toronto?
Your guess is as good as mine on that one.
Oh God, I know. I think he did though. Oh, why do I feel good about that? Just why did he definitely played for Toronto.
DeLon Wright
for Detroit. I think DeLon Wright works, dude.
I didn't even know that he played more than one season.
No, come on, don't do that. He had a few-year career.
He did. 16 to 20. I guess is he still playing? He's still playing.
Is he still playing?
I don't know. It says till 2024.
Well, I don't want to look it up now. So
all right, 1%. There you go.
All right,
DeLon Wright still in the league apparently. Should we just cap it off with a Marcus Camby? Or are we trying to get fancy here?
No, Marcus or Damon works. Yeah, DeLon Wright's on Miami.
Okay.
He's playing 11 games. He played for the Wizards this season, too.
Okay.
Yeah, Wizards before he played. Yeah, he started his career in Toronto.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, let's do Marcus Camby. You said Marcus Camby first. Let's do it. Like I think him and Damon Stoudemire are going to be the same type of percentage. So at that point, it's the same thing more or less. So.
All right.
Now all right.
There it is for a 1, 2, 4 rarity score.
Love to see it. All right. So
Gary Trent Jr.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess that did happen recently.
Oh, Ibaka did work for the OKC one.
So let's recap some of these. No, I knew he'd work for OKC Toronto. It was just for it was for Portland that I was thinking would work. All right. So to recap these, the most common answers for Cavs OKC was Kendrick Perkins. So wow, look at us.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull up some other options.
Yeah, I'm curious. For OKC Raptors, it was Serge Ibaka. For Thunder, 10 boards a game. It was Russ. Rodney Hood for Cavs Blazers. That was a pretty recent trade. So yeah, I could. Larry Nance would have worked too. Now that I think about it, or Larry Nance Jr. I should say. I guess you should clarify there. Gary Trent Jr. for Blazers and Raptors. Bill Walton, who we mentioned for 10 boards a game for the Blazers. For Pistons and Cavs, number one was Andre Drummond. It was T-Mac. T-Mac did play for the Pistons, so Pistons and Raptors, he was number one. And then Dennis Rodman, who we did mention, 10 boards a game for the Pistons, obviously one of the greatest rebounders of all time. Who do you got on the which connection were we looking at? The Cavs and Thunder?
Cavs and Thunder. Jeff Green works. George Hill works.
Oh, that's where Jeff Green works. Yeah, you're right.
Kendrick Perkins works. Sean Livingston works. Sebastian Telfair works.
Wow.
Delonte West. And after that, we're kind of getting into the older guys.
There's a few good ones there.
Joe Smith works.
Oh, yeah, Joe Smith's a classic. Number one overall pick. Yeah. But, all right.
Eric Snow works.
Yeah, wow, he played for the Thunder. That's crazy. Oh, I guess for the Sonics, but.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. I did not know that for Eric Snow. All right. So one last time to recap our grid for Cavs and Thunder. We got Kendrick Perkins for Thunder Raptors, Dennis Schroeder. For Thunder, 10 rebounds a game, Sean Kemp. Alonzo G for Trailblazers and Cavs. Marcus Camby for Trailblazers and Raptors. Only 6% there. Not bad. 10 boards a game for the Blazers, Yusuf Nurkic. Andre Drummond for Pistons and Cavs, DeLon Wright for Raptors and Pistons, and Greg Monroe for Pistons and 10 rebounds a game. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Driving Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the show. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us.
And follow us on YouTube. You can watch a video version of the podcast and obviously see the Immaculate Grid as we go through it each and every time. And once you subscribe, obviously, you'll know about new episodes coming out.